असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतङ्गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. O Lord, please lead us from unreality to the reality, from ignorance to the knowledge, and from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Dear devotees, today we are trying to discuss the third chapter, that is Practical Vedanta. So this is the series of lectures given by Swami Vivekananda in the New York on Vedanta. After finishing his lectures on Jnana Yoga, some of the disciples or some of the devotees or well-wishers, they asked, Swamiji, can you explain us pinpointedly how this Vedanta, how this non-dualistic philosophy can be put into practice? Like there is a science and technology. If science is a theoretical part, knowledge part, then the practical aspect, how it can be put into practice, can be seen in technology actually. That's where science becomes so famous because of its technology. So similarly, from that point, some of the disciples, they did ask how this Vedanta can be put into practice. What are the utilitarian? Because utilitarianism was very common in those days. It was taken over the Western civilization. So they asked, how can we think of the utilitarian view? So that is the reason Swamiji started to discuss the practical Vedanta under 4 or 5 lectures. Now, many times, quite a few times, people have asked that, Swamiji, by studying Vedanta or by discussing Vedanta, by studying philosophy, what are we going to get? Say 100 years before, most of the universities, philosophy department was very famous, quite famous. Quite a few intellectuals used to come and discuss. They used to pursue. So they used to get jobs and all. In this present the age of science and technology or artificial intelligence or internet, IT. So studying philosophy definitely doesn't give our bread and butter. Probably it doesn't give any job. It doesn't fill our stomach or pocket. Then why should we study the philosophy? This is one pragmatic question is been posed by many of the people. And apart from that, to improve the quality of life or to face the hustle and bustle of the life, to face the challenges which we face in our day-to-day life, how Vedanta helps, how Vedanta can help, or really Vedanta can help. So these are the few questions was posed by many of the youngsters and as well as the aspirants. I think for this, Swami Vivekananda tells beautifully in his practical Vedanta lecture. The Vedanta says that infinity is our true nature. It will never vanish. It will abide forever. But we are limiting ourselves by our actions, which, like a chain round our necks, has dragged us into the limitation. Break that chain and be free. Trample law under your feet. There is no law in human nature. There is no destiny, no fate. How can there be law in infinity? Freedom is its watchword. Freedom is its nature. Freedom is its birthright. Freedom is be free, and there have any number of personalities you may like. Then we will play like the actor who comes up on the stage and plays the part of beggar or whatnot. Here you can understand very clearly by studying Vedanta, by understanding the Vedantic principles, and by putting into practice how one can be happy at all given point of time. So we will stop complaining the world. We will stop complaining about people. We will stop complaining about things which are not under our control or which are maybe under our control. And he also says, so long as we have no knowledge of our real nature, we are beggars, jostled about every force in nature and made slaves of by everything in nature. We cry all over the world for help, but help never comes to us. We cry to imaginary beings, and yet it never comes. But still, we hope help will come, and thus, in weeping and wailing and hoping, one life is past, and the same play goes on and on and on. Be free, hope for nothing from anyone. Why? All the help that has come was from within yourselves. You only had the fruits of what you yourselves worked for, and yet you were strangely hoping all the time for help. See, what a, beautiful and powerful statements. Because I have forgotten about my real nature, who am I, and I am suffering. And I am making XYZ different persons or situations, people, the cause for my suffering or for my happiness also. And also, I'm expecting the help from others, maybe from the Almighty, from my friends, from my teachers, from my parents, from my friends, from my neighbors, and so on and so forth. And whole life, I may get sometimes, no doubt, but we are waiting, and we are in despair. But in reality, the moment when you understand your real nature, you will start understanding things, and everything will fall at place. That's what Swami Vivekananda is saying. By that, what happens? The weeping and wailing stops. The whole vision is changed. And instead of an eternal prison, this world has become a playground. Now, you see, what a beautiful statement. Instead of a land of competition, it becomes a land of bliss, where there is a perpetual spring, flowers bloom, and butterflies flit about. This very world becomes heaven, which formerly was hell. To the eyes of the bound, it is a tremendous place of torment, but to the eyes of the free, it is quite otherwise. The one life is the universal life. Heavens and all those places are here. So, once you start understanding these Vedantic ideas, once you start putting into the practice, then wherever we live, whatever we may do, all this will fall at place and we can be happy. So, that is the reason we should study Vedanta, we should try to understand Vedanta, and we have to correct ourselves. We have to correct ourselves in the sense we have to correct our wrong thinking, wrong perceptions, wrong views about the reality. Having said, Swamiji starts a beautiful, in the third lecture on the practical Vedanta, Swami Vivekananda starts about Chandogya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. There, you are that. Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. O Shvetaketu, you are that. So, when his father said to his son, you are that 9 times, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu, then he understood and he experienced Ahamasmi Brahma, I am that Brahman. Because he was a best student and his mind was pure, he was clear, so he was able to comprehend the truth. Why I'm telling, maybe sometimes you may say, Swamiji, we have heard quite a few times from you this Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi. Then why are we not understanding? Because our mind is not pure enough. We are not, clear, still ready enough. Taking this Tattvamasi Shvetaketu, Swami Vivekananda starts explaining the nature of the world. Because in philosophy, when philosophy or the Advaita philosophy, how much ever it says that we are the self, we are that consciousness, we are the existence, consciousness, bliss absolute. After hearing all, many of the people are the seekers after the truth. They try to question, they try to find an answer out of inquisitiveness, maybe. That's all okay. What about this nature of, or what about this world? What about this universe which we are seeing, where we are living? If the God and God alone is true, or the self alone is true, or the Brahman, the consciousness alone is true, then what about this universe, which is much more real for most of us? Because we are experiencing, our experience cannot be denied, it cannot be falsified. And if it says it is against reason, rationality, so how do you place it in your philosophy or in your view? This question can boggle the human mind, seeker's mind, and definitely they do pose this question. And Advaita Vedanta and every school of philosophy has to answer. And Advaita Vedanta also accepts this question and they try to answer. Here only the theory of causation comes into picture. Theory of causation means the theory which explains how this universe is manifested, how this universe is created. Cause. So if the universe is an effect, what is the cause for this world? So when this universe got created, how this universe got created? Now, why this universe got created? Most of us we know because for the experience of the human beings. Now, when and how? If you ask, when if you ask, now Semitic religions they may give some answers, and theistic schools of Vedanta and mythologies they give some thousands of years before, a few thousands of years before they say. But interestingly, the non-dualistic school of Vedanta, which is called Advaita Vedanta, it tells very clearly, I cannot say, I do not know. Why? Because I cannot say. Why? Because the time and space is the part of the creation. When the creation starts, the time and space come into existence, then how can you tell that when it started? There's a very beautiful, possible, rational answer. If you keep on thinking, you'll be able to appreciate it. Anyhow, I will leave to the listeners. Now, the reality, there is an eternal reality. Some people accept. And some of them, they say there is no eternal reality at all. Like, for an example, materialistic philosophers, or for an example, some scientific philosophers. And there are so many philosophers, different schools, they say there is no eternality or there is no eternal reality. And some of the philosophers, school of philosophers, they believe, yes, there is an eternal reality. And among them, the believers who believe in eternal reality, they can be broadly classified into few groups, few classes. Some of them who believe in there's an eternal reality, they believe in multiple eternal realities. Multiple eternal realities. For an example, theistic schools of Vedanta, they say three realities. One is God, the other is individual being or the individual self, and the third is world. Three realities they accept. And now when it comes to Sankhya philosophy and Yoga philosophy, they more or less they believe in two realities. Sankhya predominantly, of course, there is a debate, but generally Sankhya believes in two permanent realities. One is Purusha, the other is Prakriti. They don't believe in God. Now, the same idea has been taken by Sankhya, and the Patanjali Yoga believes in Purusha and Prakriti. They also add God, three realities again. Now, Advaita Vedanta says there's only one reality, that is called Brahman or self or consciousness. And interestingly, in Nyaya and Vaisheshika schools of philosophy, they believe in multiple realities, which they use the technical word called Padartha. Padartha means it is a category or the substance or the objects of reality or objects of valid knowledge, you can define. So they believe in multiple realities. How much multiple realities? Now, the old school of logical realism, that is Nyaya philosophy, they give 16, and the new school of Nyaya philosophy, they give in 7 or 9. And the Vaisheshika theory, Vaisheshika school of philosophy, which gave atomic theory thousands of years before, they also believe in 6 or 7 schools or 6 or 7 multiple realities they believe. Now this one reality or multiple realities or two realities, it is very interesting to discuss. Now, what is the connection between the realities, if you ask? That is nothing but the creation is between creator and the created. Yeah, you can sit down, take your seats. Yeah. Now, the God is the creator. You can say God, personal God or impersonal God, or it is a cosmic power or whatever you can say. He is creator and he has created this universe. This is what Semitic schools of Vedanta believe, and also, Semitic religions and also theistic schools of Vedanta, they believe that God is the cause and the effect is the world. So God has created the universe. And Christianity says that God has created this world out of nothing. Now, Swami Vivekananda and all our rational schools of philosophies, they don't accept today. Out of faith, we may accept, but out of reason, out of rationality, and even Advaita Vedanta and also science doesn't accept today that the Christian concept that God has created this world out of nothing, because it is against law of conservation of energy, law of conservation of momentum, and all these things. And interestingly, Islam also more or less same idea has been given. Even Islam says that Allah decided to create this world with his unlimited power, with his authority, with his command, and he created this universe and things came into existence. Now, and theistic schools of Vedanta, they also say that God created the world because he has got unlimited power. They have created the world. Now, interestingly, the theistic schools of Vedanta, whatever you say, the non-dualistic schools of Vedanta, that is Advaita Vedanta, they say that God didn't create the world. God has been projected, or God has been appeared as the world, as the universe. Now, here, all these things, if you see, and there are materialistic people, and for example, Sankyans also there. There is a called Prakriti, which is a matter, subtle matter. Subtle matter has been transformed into the universe. So now, if you see in this, all these schools of Vedanta and schools of philosophy, there is a common phenomena, common connection between the cause and the effect. So this is what power of observation. When you study schools of Vedanta, schools of philosophy, and all so much deeply, you will be really astonished to see how the philosophers had a powerful observation. Whatever the things which were happening in and around the world and in and around the place we live in the universe, they all observed and they formulated these laws. And the science also today, they follow this two logic. It is called inductive logic and deductive logic. And even the spirituality or even our religions also have accepted this inductive logic and deductive logic. Now I will tell, and afterwards I'll go to the little thing. So there is a relationship between cause and effect. So the effect has been come from particular cause. Say for an example, there's effect if you take as a ghee. Ghee has been manufactured, has been produced, or has been deduced out from the cause called the milk. Without milk, there cannot be ghee. Without milk, there cannot be yogurt. Without milk, you cannot have a butter. So milk is the cause, and the butter or a ghee or yogurt is what the effect. So there is a relationship between cause and effect. Now, interestingly, in the schools of Vedanta or in the schools of philosophy, you go deeply, they have got a lot of discussions and there are different variations. Some say the effect pre-exists in the cause. Some say effect doesn't pre-exist in the cause. Both are too different, both are one and same, etc. etc. Now, if you see all this power of observation which was done by our philosophers, it can be broadly classified into two types of logic, what is inductive logic and deductive logic. Now, what is inductive logic, which is used in science experiments and is also used in our Vedanta or in our philosophy? So, what is this inductive logic? The inductive logic can be discussed or described like this: you are going from particulars to generalization or universe. Universals, you can say, or universe. Like, for an example, I saw a crow today in the Dublin. Crow is black. And also, I saw one more crow in the Galway, that is also black. And also, I saw one more crow in the London, that is also black. And I saw a crow in the USA, that is also black. So that means crows are black. Because I, with the seeing the occurrences or happenings or a particular things time and again, then I come into a conclusion. So that's what called law actually. What do you say? Particular things which is happening again and again and again and again. When you observe the same series time and again, repetition of the series, that becomes the law actually. That's how the inductive logic has been used in all our experiments. They do make an experiment and they find out some value. They do second time, third time, fourth or fifth or 10th time with small modifications probably. And if they get same results, then they say this is the result and this is the truth and this is the law. So this is called inductive logic. Inductive logic also has been used by our philosophers to formulate the theories. And there is one more interesting logic called deductive logic. Deductive logic is from mostly generalization or from universals, it comes to particular. The standard example is given like all men are mortal. Socrates is mortal, Plato is mortal, Aristotle is mortal, John is mortal because all of them are men. I am also, since I am also man, so I am also mortal. So from universals, it goes to particular. Now, these power of observations and these logics has been used. These logics has been used to formulate the theories. That's why I'm taking. Now, interestingly, Swami Vivekananda makes one more interesting observation. What are the principles of knowledge based on which all our scientific theories and our religious and spiritual theories has been formed, our philosophies are formed? As I said, one is going from particular to general and general to the universe. That is inductive logic and deductive logic. Based on this, the principles of knowledge has been formulated. Theories are being formed. Experiments are being made. And also one more interesting point Swami Vivekananda makes, which is very unique, that anything of which the explanation is sought is to be explained so far as possible from its own nature. Probably I'll take an example, then you will understand. It is a bit technical. Now, I was sitting in an probably in an orchard, then apple tree, apple fell, and an apple fell. Oh, why apple fell? I might have thought. Then after some time, once second apple fell, then third, four, five, 10, and some other fruits I saw. Then when I see same thing happening time and again, then I understand, okay, so whatever is there in it has to fall. That's what we say, gravitational force and etc. So the gravitational force is already there in the apple or in the nature. Because of that, these things are happening. So this is what law it is also called. So based on these principles, all our knowledge has been made. And one more interesting point Swami Vivekananda makes is this knowledge is whatever the philosophers has found, it is not it is not someone's property. Now Einstein found out theory of relativity, or Newton has found something, and Galileo has found something. Many scientists we have got. So it is not their property, or it was possible only for them. It is possible for all of us. Why? Because knowledge is internal in nature. Knowledge exists in everyone's of our mind. Then why it was possible for them and not for possible for us? If you ask, because we have not made an attempt. Knowledge is internal in nature. Knowledge is there in everyone's mind. It only we have to scrape it. That's all. For example, there was a beautiful diamond stone, but the diamond stone was covered with soil. So people were using as a probably a stone to clean their toes or to clean their feet. But a person who was well aware of this diamond, he was a diamond merchant, then he found out the stone and he picked up and he sold that and he became a millionaire. Now, because he had that knowledge of that stone or diamond, he became a millionaire. So similarly, this knowledge is there for every one of us. We have to create it or you want to bring it out. Now, after discussing the two possibilities by which one can accept religion, or when one can accept the knowledge, or one can formulate the theories, Swami Vivekananda, interestingly, he brings the personal God, the concept of personal God. And he says that, and based on the faith, we may accept the personal God. Now, imagine the Swami Vivekananda when he was discussing these things, and the Western world especially. Now, because of the Industrial Revolution, there was a lot of change in science and technology. The best intellectuals in those days, like logical positivists, idealists, realists, all them, they were discussing whether God exists or not, whether religion is true or not. The validity of the religion was discussed, and the concept of personal God and impersonal God was discussed. In those times, Swami Vivekananda is talking all these things. Swami Vivekananda says, out of faith, out of faith, we may accept personal God, but for many of us, based on reason, it is not possible. And he takes interestingly the point or the philosophy of the John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill is a very interesting personality. He simply says that, he simply rejects saying that personal God or the concept of personal God is impossible and cannot be perceived at all. And it cannot be proved at all, he says. It's a very interesting, what you say, philosophy, which I'm not going to. Whoever is interested, you can read the John Stuart Mill's ideas. Swami Vivekananda he takes and he says, yeah, to a certain extent we may accept John Stuart Mills, but still uh, he adds a beautiful point there. He says that uh, the mind, the limited mind, while it is perceiving, while try to conceiving the God, impersonal God, it can only perceive, it can only conceive to that extent, which is called personal God. So that is what possible, he says. You know. Afterwards, he takes the Kant, Immanuel Kant. Swami Vivekananda was a fan of Immanuel Kant actually, and he takes the example or the theory of the Immanuel Kant's theory, and he brings the theory of noumena and phenomenon. Now, what is this noumena and phenomenon? Noumena or noumenon is what things in themselves which constitutes the reality. So, which Vedanta says reality or eternality or eternal substance self, which is called more or less similar to that. I cannot say exactly similar to that. It is called noumena. So Kant's bring this concept of noumena. And there's a one more interesting idea or one more interest concept Immanuel Kant brings is called phenomena, that is appearances which constitute our experience. Now, say for example, I'm experiencing this screen. So according to the Kant, Immanuel Kant, this is what phenomena, or I'm perceiving this world. And this whole world is called phenomena or phenomenal world actually. And the phenomenal word is an effect, and the noumena is the cause. The noumena is what the reality, and the phenomena is what experience. And just we are carried over this phenomenal world, and we are missing the noumena, according to the Immanuel Kant. And Swami Vivekananda appreciates it, and Swami Vivekananda he also tells it is a very good idea, and it is more rational. And very one more interesting point Swami Vivekananda brings that now the question may come. Now, phenomena is what we experience. That is what the appearances. Now, okay, I'm seeing a chair for an example. If a chair is placed in an hall, and say 10 or 20 or 30 people are being brought to the hall, and we ask individually, what do you see? Every one of us we say that we have seen a chair. Fine, because there is a name called chair, and we see that I am seeing a chair. I am seeing a chair. Fine. Then when we ask to explain the chair, most of us we explain. But the interesting point, the missing point, or the interesting point which we may not recognize it, the definition and the expression and the explanation of the chair may not be same with everyone. It may be similar. However, we say same, it is not same, it is similar. And Swami Vivekananda hooks this subtle point, and he says that because most of us we have got constituted the same material or the same thing called mind, human mind, so we are perceiving the things more or less similarly. That's why we have accepted the reality, saying that it is a reality, but it is not so. So, not, I mean, even the chair, the perception of the chair is not same. It is similar with 10 or 20 or 30 human minds. And even that similarity is because of the sense organ, which is called eye, and also which is of the mind. Because most of us we have got the similar instrument, which is called mind. That is why our perceptions are same. Because of that, you cannot say the chair is real or eternally it exists. And from there, he starts bringing the idea of the Vedanta, which the prana and the ether, prana life force. Whatever the noumena and phenomena, he says, even Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta also accepts. Now, the noumena or the self or the Brahman or the consciousness is what the eternal reality, which is the base, which is our true, which is the true thing actually. Then phenomena is what an appearance, it is only because of our mind, because of our sense organs. Because of the mind and because of our sense organs, I am seeing the substance as a chair. And Swami Vivekananda brings a one more interesting point for discussion and point for contemplation for all of us. Say, we have got 5 sense organs of knowledge and the mind, and we are perceiving a substance, the substance called chair, in a particular fashion. Now, say for discussion's sake, God creates tomorrow 1 or 2 more sense organs of knowledge, which is called Gnanendriya. If we get 1 or 2 sense organs of knowledge, that means we get extra power of perception, then our perception, our understanding about the chair, it completely changes. That means what? Whatever we are getting the knowledge from this mind and the sense organs, however true it is, the same way it is also we are getting the limited aspect or limited picture of the reality. So that's where we say the Advaita Vedanta, the Brahma Satya and Jagat Mithya. I know it is a very subtle concept, but it is a very interesting phenomena if you understand. So what Mithya means, it is not that there is nothing. We don't say Jagat Mithya means the world doesn't exist, we don't say. But world is there as something, but we are perceiving it as something else. Why? Because of our mind and because of our sense organs. And here again, Swami Vivekananda beautifully connects to the idealist and realist. And if you see in the 18th century, whoever has studied the Western philosophy and the history of Western philosophy, there was a big fight, intellectual fight between idealist and realist. Idealists, they believe that because I perceive the world, so the world exists. If I don't perceive the world, that means the world doesn't exist. Very interesting and very powerful arguments. They have got very powerful arguments. Because I'm perceiving the world, because I'm perceiving this computer, that's why computer exists. If I don't perceive the computer, then computer doesn't exist. Of course, I'm oversimplifying the idealism, but still it has got a lot of logical tenets. And the realists, they say, no, what nonsense. And they put a interesting question for them. Now, say for an example, night. Most of us, we are all sleeping in the night. Now, I mean, no one is, say, for an example, daytime I was working with my computer, so I'm perceiving, so computer exists. Now, say, for discussion sake, I'm in Dublin in the night, mostly whole of the Dublin is sleeping. I mean, every one of us, we are sleeping. Then no one is perceiving the computer. Does it mean that night the computer got disappeared? How ridiculous! I mean, how ridiculous it is. How, I mean, insensible and irrational. And that's how the realists marked at idealist. The idealists come with a very interesting point, saying that, oh no, if none of us we are seeing, but God is perceiving, that's how it exists. I mean, they come with some blame excuse. But the realists give a very interesting, postulation or the theory saying that whether you perceive or not, whether I perceive or not, whether X, Y, Z perceive it or not, in spite of perceiving or independent of perceptions, the world exists, the things exist as it is. Now, idealism has got some more its own strength and it has got drawbacks or limitations, and realists have got their own strength and they have got their own drawbacks or limitations. Now, the question was asked also, even quite a few times, even some of the philosophers or thinkers have asked me also this question. Now, Advaita Vedanta, is it idealism or realism? There was a good discussion whether Advaita is idealism or realism or something else. Some people say Advaita Vedanta is absolutism, but it is mostly accepted is Advaita is absolute idealism. Absolute idealism. What do you mean by absolute idealism? The absolute alone exists that can be perceived or that can be experienced. That absolute idealism is what Advaita Vedanta, and that absolute ideal or the absolute reality is what the Brahman. So, after explaining all these things, Swami Vivekananda brings the scientific concept of this. This whole world can be, what you say, classified into two groups, into two halves. What is that? One is matter, the second is energy. This whole universe can be classified into two halves. One is matter and the second is energy. And this whole matter has been deduced or deducted or deduced from the akasha, from the matter which is called akasha or the ether. And all our energies, whatever we see, it may be gravitational force, or it may be electrical energy, it may be mechanical energy, or it may be wind energy, any type of energy, basically, all of these energies has been deduced out, has been drawn out or deduced out from the prana or from the life force. So all the matter has come from akasha, all energy has come from prana. And still one step further he goes, Swami Vivekananda, and even the so-called ether, the earth has come from water, water has come from fire, fire has come from air has come from ether. And this ether also has been emerged from this prana or the energy. And this prana has come from where? It has come from the consciousness or from the absolute reality, which is called Brahman. So whatever you are seeing in this whole manifested universe, all this manifested universe has come from Akasha or from ether. From ether has come from prana, energy, and that also has come from that energy has come from the consciousness. Now, the one important and interesting question will come for all of us. Then, where the question of noumena and phenomena comes here. Now, whatever this universe which we are perceiving through our sense organs, through our mind, through our perception, through our experience, all them are categorized as phenomena. That's why it is called phenomenal world, actually. And this phenomenal world has come from the reality, absolute reality, or the reality, or the Atman, or Brahman, or God, or whatever you say. That is called noumena, basically. So this phenomena pre-exist in the phenomena pre-exist in the noumena according to the Advaita Vedanta. Okay. So now when and how this phenomena got created by noumena, if you ask, the Advaita Vedanta says it was never created, it is only projected, or it has been only appeared. This theory of projection is called Vivartavada. So in the theory of causation is very interesting. Now, that means free pre effect pre-exists in the cause. The cause is what appearing as the effect. Now, after idealism and realism, after discussing, he brings that the whole world has been emerged out from the reality, which is called self. Fine. Then what about myself? Or what about individual beings? There's a X, there is a Y, there is a Z, there is a, there is a B, there is a C. So many people, I mean, individual beings we have got, life we have got, living beings. Then what about us? All these living beings also has been emerged from that same reality called Brahman. Now we have, that means okay. So from one reality, so many beings have come. So many beings are there, isn't it? Then again, Swami Vivekananda says, no, there's only one being. There are now so many beings. Now the interesting thing, we may feel that how is it possible? Say, for an example, if there are 100 people in this room, there are 100 beings, 100 living beings, 100 men and women, for an example, or even including maybe animals and etc. How can you say there's only one existence or there's only one being? Swami Vivekananda brings a beautiful idea or a beautiful concept, the theory of individuality. What is this theory of individuality, which is very interesting? Now, I, as a Shantivratananda, as an individual being. Now, there is, for example, John as an individual being. The John Stuart Mill, he was an individual being. Immanuel Kant, he was an individual being. Now, there is a Jimmy, she's an individual being. And we are all feel that we are all separate. As a human being, we are all maybe one group, we can be classified under, categorized under one group, but we are all different. So that's what we mean individuality. And we have got, say, for an example, 100 things are kept. There are 100 different things. There can be similar things, but there are 100 things. Now, Swami Vivekananda defines the individuality as indivisibility. This is again very unique definition, which I have come across only in Swami Vivekananda's ideas. The theory of individuality, when he discusses, he says that individuality means indivisibility. So what we call individuals means we're all different from one another or each, etc. Whatever we say, there is no difference actually. Individuality means there is only indivisibility. Okay, then we are all feeling different. Then why? Because of different reflecting mediums. Say for an example, there are 100 buckets of water has kept in a park, for an example. And there's a moonlight, there's a moon, full moon day, and there's a beautiful moon. We are all enjoying the moonlight. And if they have kept 100 buckets with the water, then what you see? 100 reflections we see, 100 reflections of the moon. Then if you ask anyone, a child probably, if you ask how many moons are there, they will say 100 moons, because they're able to see 100 moons in the 100 buckets. Is there really 100 moons? No, there's only one moon, but there are 100 reflections. So that's what Swami Vivekananda, based on this Advaita Vedanta, he says that just like one self has been appearing as many because of the different reflecting mediums. So based on that idea, Swami Vivekananda says individuality means it is indivisibility. The moment when you start understanding, then there is no love and there is no hate at all. Oh, he is a problem. He is the root cause for my problem, and I was hating. If I see, my BP increases. If I see I lose my patience, etc., etc., all these intrapersonal relationships and interpersonal relationships problems we have, all of us we have got. Now, this theory of individuality can solve the problem riddle, because there's only one reality which is called Brahman, and there's only different reflecting mediums. If so, if I am hating someone, that means I am hating myself. If I am loving someone, that means I am loving myself. So the Advaita Vedanta can be one of the wonderful base to solve the problems between the relationships. He is good, she is bad, he is strong, he is weak, he is gentle, he is arrogant. Like that, we keep on attributes. Of course, as a transactional reality, they all may be fine, but in reality, there's only one reality. There are so many reflecting mediums. The moment once you start understanding this and once you start accepting it, then what happens? The dualities keeps reducing in you. You will travel, or you will overcome from the dualities. Good, bad, right, wrong, happiness, unhappiness, all these things, slowly it reduces. Then finally what happens? Tatvamasi Shvetaketu, you are that, or Ahamasmi Brahma, I am that. So more and more, when you understand, then all the differences ceases to exist. That is what Advaita Vedanta is trying to tell. And he also very beautifully, Swami Vivekananda says that the more and more, as manifested beings, we appear to be separate, but our reality is only one. And the less we think of ourselves as separate from that one, the better for us. The more we think of ourselves as separate from the whole, the more miserable we become. From this monistic principle, that is Advaita Vedanta, we get at the basis of ethics. And I venture to say that we cannot get any ethics from anywhere else. And Swami Vivekananda gives Advaita Vedanta can the best even foundation for the ethics also. Why should I be good? Why should I be moral? Because it is my real nature. That is what the self or goodness or auspiciousness or whatever you say. So the more and more you understand this reality, one can be happy, one can be blissful, one can be peaceful, and one can become complete. Again, one can become complete is only a relative usage. One is already complete. One only he will understand and experience the completeness, or rather, he removes the negativity. He removes the barrier to experience the completeness, or oneness, or the wholeness. And so Vivekananda says that once the moment when you understand this, then what happens? Then you will start helping people, because the same reality which is in you, the same reality is in him or in her, and etc. So it is your birthright to do service. It is your birthright to help the people, to love the people, and etc. So the Advaita Vedanta, the non-dualistic philosophy, can be the best base for the humanitarian activities and all for our charity activities. And one more thing is, Swami Vivekananda says that all the knowledge is in us, only we are closing our eyes and we are saying that we are arrogant. Immediately, the moment you remove your hands, then you can see the world. And that Brahman is what? It is the infinite power which is in the soul of man, whether he knows it or not. Its manifestation is only a question of being conscious of it. Slowly, this infinite giant is, as it were, walking up, becoming conscious of his power and arousing himself. And with his growing consciousness, more and more of his bonds are breaking, chains are bursting asunder. And the day is sure to come when, with the full consciousness of his infinite power and wisdom, the giant will rise to his feet and stand erect. Let us all help to hasten this glorious consummation. That's what Swami Vivekananda ends this lecture. So basically, we have to understand who am I, and we have to try to manifest this conscious truth, or this absolute truth consciously, so that I can be happy, I can be blissful, I can be, complete. So may Swami Vivekananda and may the divine bless all of us, so that we shall understand, we shall experience, and we shall manifest the divinity as much as possible. And one more interesting point Swami Vivekananda makes, that after having said all these things, So is there any reason or is there any necessary of accepting personal God? He says yes. Because many people cannot comprehend the impersonal God. For them, personal God can bring good. So he says, I'm not against the concept of personal God. Yes, it is possible because the impersonal God, when it is conceived through this limited mind or sense organs, that's the best we can understand about the impersonal God. As a personal God, that's the best understanding possible. So we can understand, accept, and appreciate, and we can follow. But slowly, when you evolve in yourself spiritually, you will reach, or you will attain, or you will, you will understand, and probably will accept the idea of impersonal God in a better manner, Swami Vivekananda says. So Swami Vivekananda is not against the personal God concept, idea or concept, but he says that the impersonal God is much more rational and which can withstand the questions or the logics and the challenges posed by the science. That's what Swami Vivekananda means. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Rama Krishna Arpanamastu.